called how do you test hypothesis in statistics or in econometric exercises. This, as I told you, is a pillar of what should I say, the one important part of any econometrician, that you should know how to infer your results properly. So from that idea that it is being done, as I told you, this could have been finished in half a lecture. Like these are the distributions, and you calculate these statistics for this situation. And if the calculated statistics is greater than the table value, you reject the null. If the less, accept the null and go about it. This is how it is. It could have been easily dismissed like this with with the help of some examples. But this doesn't tell you the real reason for why we do certain things and what are the other things behind selecting certain things or rejecting certain things. So from that point of view, I had actually made it a bit more technical here. And this is how we started. And in that thing, we is a critical region, one-sided, two-sided hypothesis, simple and composite hypothesis. Example, null and alternate reject. What exactly testing of statistical hypothesis? What exactly does it mean? Statistic, parameter space, statistical inference, and all those stuff. This is how we came here. And this is where we got stuck. Power function and types of error. The relation between two divisions is the following. The random sample lies in the critical region S1. We reject the null. If X is in this S0, we don't reject the null. We eventually learn which set S0 and S1 may contain, but we may not learn which set theta 0 or theta 1, which set theta 0 or theta 1 contains the theta. Okay, so this is where this leads to our discussion on power functions and types of error. What is that? Suppose there is a test procedure, delta. Test procedure may be based on a critical region or a test statistic, which is the rejection region. The probabilistic properties of delta can be summarized by computing for each value of theta in the entire parameter space, either the probability that the test will reject the null or the probability that does not reject the null. So we can do these things. What is the power function got to do with this? Suppose theta is delta is a test procedure that we have done. Okay, T is a test statistic, delta will be a test procedure. The function pi theta conditional on delta, I don't know whether you can say that, as I told you. Okay, you'll do that. Given the test procedure, this is called the power function of the test delta. Remember here, look at it carefully. If S1 denotes the critical region of delta, the power function is determined by the relation, the probability in that, a probability that X will be in the critical region, given that theta. Okay, theta belonging to the entire parameter space. If it is described in terms of test statistic, T and rejection region R, the power function would completely turn out to be rejection region. Instead of S1, you use the word rejection region, and instead of X, you use the word T. That is a T statistic that you are calculating. So the probability that T statistic will be in the rejection region, the power function is defined this way for all theta in the parameter space. Okay, now according to given this, yesterday somebody had a problem. Since the power function specifies for each possible value of the parameter theta, remember each possible value, because theta is in the entire parameter space, the probability that delta will reject H naught and the probability that delta will reject H naught, what would be an ideal power function? Look at this. Given this, what would be an ideal power function? Yesterday, somebody asked me this question. What would be an ideal power function? Given this.
So something that is always close to 1. It is
Yeah.
1, x is in S1 and 0 when x is not in S1.
Okay, who was the one that yesterday somebody asked me a question about how it is one? I don't remember. Who is it? Ami Gandhi?
Sir, it's me, Aman.
Aman asked the question.
Yes, sir.
Can you now understand why it is so?
No, sir. Can you repeat it? I joined just now.
Okay. Do you see
Sorry.
the power function? Do you see the power function on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Delta be a test procedure. The function by probability is called the power function of the test delta. If S1 denotes a critical region, the power function is determined by the relation. What does this relation tell you? What does this probability tell you if it is a probability?
Sir, that x belong to the critical region.
Power function basically determines that x belongs to x is a multiple, it's a boldface letter, so x1 to xn basically. If you explain it in terms of critical region, if you explain it in terms of rejection region, what does it tell you? Where t is the statistic. The statistic that you have calculated falls in the rejection region. Can we say this now, Aman?
Yes, sir.
Now you tell me what would be an ideal power function?
Sir, the rejection region should be zero, because we should not reject any the hypothesis if it is true.
No. Power function is completely determined by the relation critical region and the rejection region. So what would be the ideal power function?
Sir, 1 then.
Now you get it? It follows that the ideal power function would be one for which the probability is 0 for every value of theta belonging to the acceptance region, that theta naught, and it will be value 1 for every value of theta in the rejection region or the critical region. Now you understand why it should be the case?
Okay, sir.
Okay, so this is it. So if the power function of a test actually had these values, then regardless of the actual value of theta, delta would lead to the correct decision probability 1. But this is never going to happen. So there is no test that would produce this ideal power function. So where does that take us next? Let's see an example before that. Testing hypothesis about the mean. We have seen before that for this example, the test procedure delta based on the test statistic with rejection region C in half closed C to infinity. So the distribution of x bar is normal with mean mu and variance sigma square by n. The parameter is mu because we have assumed the sigma square is known. This is a crucial assumption. We are going to relax this assumption. Mu also is unknown, sigma square is also unknown. How do we do the testing? So that is going to take us to another concept, which is called the confidence intervals. So I'm going to introduce the confidence intervals to you and then come back to this test. So till I say we assume that mu is unknown, but sigma square is known. Okay, what is this? The power function can be computed from this distribution. Let phi, capital Phi, denote the CDF of a standard normal. T is in the rejection region R is this. Why are we doing this? Why is it 2? One is greater and one is less than.
Because there was mod.
Remember? Because x bar minus n minus mu 0. Okay, this mod would be minus c or it could be plus c, and this is it. Do you understand the second? Do you get the second equality now?
Sir, how do we get that 1 minus phi, whatever it is in the bracket?
Who is this?
Sir, Drishan.
What is the formula? How is it x bar n distributed as?
with mean mu and variance sigma square by n.
Okay, and how can we convert the first equality into the second equality?
We are just standardizing, right?
Yeah, and what does that 1 minus 5 tell you?
That is for the greater than part. Like we
Yeah,
want to.
but first, how do you standardize this direction?
X bar minus the mean divided by.
Yeah, then that becomes a standard normal variable.
Oh, okay. The root n. Okay, I got it.
Okay, this phi is nothing but the upper limit of the CDF, isn't it? Normally CDF is defined this way, minus infinity to upper limit, isn't it?
Okay.
Okay, so 1 minus is nothing but the way we define probability of x greater than equal to x is 1 minus the other way around, isn't it? Probability that is less than x. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
And what is the second one? Second one is the standard normal one, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the final expression about the second equality is called the power function of the test procedure. You just take this down. Take this down. In your undergrad, you must have definitely done about the power function. Some of you, right? Okay. I asked you, some of you must have done this power function in your undergrad. See, statistics optional, Drishan or Kanika, all those you have done.
We did not do this.
Sir,
You
we
did
didn't
not
have.
do this.
Like power function is it the same like 1 minus probability type 2 error?
Ah, that's it.
No,
That
we
is
did
it.
power. We did
Yeah.
power.
Hello. Okay, who is this? Yamini? Yamini is there? Did you do that? Have you done
No,
this before?
sir, we didn't do that.
Okay. Ananya Srivastava, have you done this before?
No, sir. No.
Okay. Now let me ask you a question. Now that you asked the question, normally power function is taught in the undergraduate course as 1 minus probability of type 2 error, 1 minus beta. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
1 minus beta. Okay, now you do one thing. This is done under the assumption of a normal distribution. The CDF is standard normal distribution. And most of the lectures I have seen, even in the STAT online courses, STAT notes and all, what they do is they take normal distribution and they want to check whether probability of x is greater than or equal to x, I mean capital X greater than or equal to small x. This is the only thing that is being taught. And the power function is always taught from that point of view, standard normal distribution and this particular thing. Now what I have done is, this is again standard normal distribution, but now it's not greater than or equal to, this is actually a two-tail because it is mod. How do you test how do you describe the power function? for a test statistic when you are interested in knowing x bar minus mu could be greater than the hypothesized value or much less than the hypothesized value. This is what you must be doing. Suppose, answer this question. Suppose you are interested in only knowing whether x bar n is greater than the hypothesized value. Which one do you use?
Sir, I have a clarification here.
Yeah.
Sir, you have written that probability of t belongs to R equal to those two parts, probability
Yeah.
greater than and probability less than.
Yeah.
And in the probability less than part, you have written that plus 5 times root n into mu naught minus c minus mu.
Yeah.
So how are we getting that?
Why not?
Third,
I mean, first,
and
first
mu refers to, just another doubt, mu refers to the alternate hypothesis.
mu zero is definitely the alternative. This hypothesized value. Hypothesized value. Suppose, Drishan, I ask you the simple question. Suppose your calculated mu is 20. Hello?
Yes.
The calculated mu is 20 no, the hypothesized mean is 20, but you have calculated 19, for example.
Yes.
Okay, now it is, ideally it is less than, right? This is hypothesized value.
Yes.
It could be greater also, it could be 21 also.
Yes.
How do you check whether this can be treated as 20 in both the cases?
So we take the mod value like 20 minus.
That's what I've taken now. Which it is mu 0 plus c, or it is mu 0 minus c.
Oh, okay. That's why
Okay. This is the mod. If x bar minus n mu 0 equal to c, what does that tell you? Mod of x bar minus n minus mu 0 equal to c, what does it tell you? Minus c.
Minus c is less than x naught minus mu.
Minus mu 0 greater than c, right?
Yeah.
That's what I've done here. Minus c, that is a minus c here.
Okay.
Okay. Suppose you are interested in only greater than, which one do you use?
The one
only first one.
The first one. You ignore the second one. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This question is important for what we are going to discuss next. So the final expression is a power function. You take it down because I am going to explain. We are going to discuss a power function from a difficult angle. I don't see this in any online courses anymore. It's, of course, they're discussed in some book. Okay, what is it? We are going to come away from the comfort zone of normal distribution. I'm going to tell you, we are going to discuss uniform distribution where the parameter is unknown and you're going to estimate it. Okay, so that's why I'm asking you to take it on the power function. Okay, the power function is this, and power function basically decides the critical region for the alternate hypothesis. The possibility of error exists in every testing. Yeah.
So just another doubt. So when we consider, okay, it's a bit ahead, but when we consider the type 2 error, we do it with respect to the alternate hypothesis, right? So
three alternate hypotheses?
With respect to the alternate hypothesis. Yeah. So sir, so mu should be the alternate hypothesis, right? Mu naught should be for the null hypothesis, because we can write it as 1 minus the whole, 1 minus the type 2 error. So the type 2 error is basically the rejection region of the alternate hypothesis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so mu would correspond to the alternate hypothesis, right? I'm just clarifying.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Mu zero is what we are suggesting.
Yeah, okay, got it, sir.
Still, the possibility of error exists in every testing problem. If each value of theta belonging to theta naught, any decision to reject the null is an incorrect decision. Read this carefully. if each value of theta not in theta and theta not, any decision to reject the null is an incorrect decision. If theta is in theta 1, any decision not to reject the null is an incorrect decision. This leads us to the following two types of error, type 1 and type 2 error. Just a minute. Okay. What is type 1 error? An erroneous decision to reject a true null hypothesis is a type 1 error or an error of the first kind. So in terms of the power function, if theta is in theta naught, then this probability is a probability that the statistician will make a type 1 error. Can we say this now?
Yes, sir.
Third bullet point. In terms of the critical region, suppose we define S1 equal to X1 to Xn, X bar greater than 55. That is, we will reject the null if X bar is greater than 55. Greater than or equal to 55. Then if X1, X2 up to Xn is in the rejection region, when H0 is true, then H0 will be rejected when it is true, a type 1 error. This is basically what the second bullet point explains to you. Basically, what you have to remember is the first one. The subsequent points are a bit technical. You reject a true null hypothesis, then you are making a type 1 error. When you accept a false null hypothesis, you are committing a type 2 error. Okay, so people are similarly, an erroneous decision not to reject a false null hypothesis is a type 2 error, an error of the second kind. All this syntax is quite confusing. Not to reject a false null is a type 2 error or an error of the second kind. Again, if theta is in the rejection region, then 1 minus this is the probability that the statistician will make a type 2 error. In terms of the critical region, if this is 0, when H1 is true, then H0 will be accepted and not rejected when in fact H1 is true. It's a type 2 error. Don't worry about the third bullet point, it's confusing. You just remember type 1 error is to reject a true null. Type 2 error is not to reject a false null or accepting a false null. It's a type 2 error. And 1 minus the power function is the probability that the statistician will make a type 2 error.
Excuse me, sir.
Sir, in this slide, in the second bullet point, the power function here would be the probability that we are actually rejecting a false null. So the other one that not rejecting a false null would be 1 minus. Is that the logic applied here?
Yes.
Okay.
Power function tells you, power function is the probability that, remember, our power function is about rejecting the null. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, now you understand.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
1 minus probability statistician will make a type 2 error. Of course, either theta belongs to theta naught or it belongs to theta 1, but not both because it disjoins it. Only one type of error is possible, conditional on theta, but we never know which it is, which one we are committing. So if you have a choice between several tests, we would like to choose test delta that has a small probability of error. So that is, we would like the power function to have phi theta to be low for values in the acceptance region and we would like to be high for the values in the rejection region, because we are already seen ideal power function is ideal power function seldom exists. So instead of making it 1, make it as high as possible. As high as possible. And pi delta to be low for other values. So 1 minus other one, if this is high, this automatically, other one will automatically be low. So generally these two goals work against each other. So we need to strike a balance between the two goals of low power in theta naught and high power in theta 1. You know what statisticians do? This is where statistics comes in. What do we do? The most popular method is to choose a number alpha naught between 0 and 1 and require that this is equal to alpha naught for all theta in the acceptance region. See the 3 star. Do you understand this slide and this slide for low for values? And what is the normal value? Normally, what do we choose? Alpha 0 or alpha, better known as what is the value that we choose normally?
0.05
or
0.025.
1% or the 5%. Okay, 0.01 or 0.05. Now we understand why we choose that.
So we are saying that the power can be less than or equal to alpha naught. So when can it be less than alpha naught?
Why less than alpha naught? Normally we include alpha naught. You don't want it to be on the boundary, then it will be less than alpha naught. What is that question?
Okay, so they
So
don't
can you explain?
the same basically.
No, suppose we say x will be 0.05. We suppose we say 0.05 and 5% or less. That's it.
Okay.
Sir, I couldn't understand the first point, so can you explain once?
This one, the first bullet point.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The first bullet point is popular method is to choose alpha 0 between 0 and 1. Remember, what does a power function tell you? Power function is all about what?
Rejecting the null.
Look at this. There is no ideal power function. Ideal power function, that would be 1 for all the rejection region, be 0 for the null, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's not possible. Now, see the second bullet point. If you have several tests, that ideal power function does not exist. So what is the next alternative?
Okay, so
What is the next alternative? Power pi p to be in the rejection region to be as high as possible and the other region to be as low as possible. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If you make it as high as possible, the other one becomes as low as possible automatically, correct?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, so I'm saying now fixing the other one. Fixing the other one, less than or equal to alpha 0. For alpha 0, normally we take it to be 0.01 or 0.05.
Taking it as low as possible.
That's what I'm saying. 0.01 or 0.05 is the standard one.
Okay. Okay.
If you take it as 0.01, other becomes 0.99, which is as close to 1 as possible. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
That is what I mean. The crucial statement is the second one, theta belonging to theta naught.
Yes, sir.
So
Thank
then among
you.
all, then among all
Yes.
the tests that satisfy the above equation, the statistician seeks a test whose power function is as high as can be obtained for theta in the rejection region. Okay.
Hello, sir.
Do you understand this bullet point? Is this Paramila?
No, sir.
No. Do you understand this bullet point?
Sir, I had a doubt in the first bullet point. So, sir, is it like setting an upper limit to probability of type 1 error?
Yeah.
The power function is less
No,
than
we are
to
not.
alpha.
We are. I won't say we are setting an upper limit. We are just arbitrarily choosing.
So this alpha naught value is like, it is up to us, right? We
This
can.
is Drishan, this alpha naught is the alpha that is being taught in the lectures to be equal to 0.01 or 0.05. Now you get
That
me?
is what I'm saying. That is
That's
up
what,
to us,
see,
right? We
yeah,
can
we
allow
fix it.
some more.
We fix it. That's why the popular method is to choose a number alpha 0 between 0 and 1. And we choose it to be either 0.01 or 0.05. That is 1% or 5%. Now you get it?
Yes.
Okay, this is exactly what I've been trying to tell you. I'm making it a bit convoluted because I have some purpose in mind. Okay, somebody else is asking something else. Hello? Somebody else is asking. Paramila, you're asking something?
No, sir, it's clear for me. Thank you.
Okay. Then among all the tests that satisfy the above equation, the statistician seeks a test whose power function is as high as can be obtained for theta in the rejection region. We shall discuss this method shortly, but the quantities in the above equation play a fundamental role in hypothesis and they have special names. What is that? Normally, the probability of type 1 error is called the significance level of the test and is denoted alpha. Drishan, this is the same thing that we have been taught in the undergrad class, alpha.
Yes, sir, I got it.
Okay, that is alpha p equal to x1, x2 belong to S1 given H0 is the probability that x1, x2 falls into H1, S1 when H0 is true. So that is why it is kept as low as possible. The probability of type 2 error is denoted beta. That is beta will be the beta probability that x1, x2 will be in the acceptance regions under the alternative is the probability that x1, x2 falls into S0 when H1 is true. Okay, forget everything. Alpha is type 1 error, otherwise called the significance level. Beta is called the type 2 error, which we are going to see later to be equal to the power of the test and all those stuff. Okay, now you remember only this much. The second and third, fourth bullet point could be confusing. Remember the first and the third bullet point. Alpha, otherwise called the significance level of the test, is called the type 1 error, and type 2 error is called denoted beta. Okay, this is what you should remember. Testing hypothesis about a uniform distribution. Be very careful. You have, I hope, written this particular stuff, this particular formula that I gave you. Okay, we need this now. Okay, we have not seen this yet. Testing hypothesis about a uniform distribution. Go through it. A random sample x1, xn is taken from the uniform distribution on the interval 0 theta, where theta is unknown, but it is greater than 0. So far, we have taken it as 0, 1, a, b, were known integers, but now theta is unknown. So our first job is to estimate theta. Okay, now each variable, random variable, has density 1 by theta. You must be aware of this now. Why? If 0 is between x is between 0 and theta, 0 otherwise, what will be the joint PDF? Joint PDF will be 1 by theta power n, 0 otherwise. See, the x here is the x is now boldface. That's for small x1 to xn. Take it down, take it down.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, could you go back to the previous slide? So, sir, here you said that beta is a type 2 error and also called the power function. But isn't power function 1 minus?
No, not power function, not power function.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Can we go to the next slide? This is something we have seen before. You must be very thorough with, right? Is it okay? The second point, the third bullet point, the joint PDF.
Yes, sir.
Now we consider this. Suppose we know from some estimation method, the estimation method I'm considering is the MLE, maximum likelihood estimation method. I have not taught you yet the estimation method. So this is the problem. In all statistical textbooks, invariably after central limit theorem, they take the estimation part. They introduce the OLS, they introduce the maximum likelihood, they introduce the GMM, everything, and then only take the testing of hypothesis, which makes eminent sense because you have already estimated the unknown parameters and you have the estimated parameters, that is, there are estimates with you, and then only you can do hypothesis testing. So we have jumped that part. And so this goes under the assumption that whatever unknown parameters that you may have been estimated somehow. Okay, so since we have, this is not a statistical course, it's not econometrics course, I have shifted the estimation part to the econometrics part, where we will see the OLS and the maximum likelihood estimation. Under maximum likelihood estimation, I'm going to introduce to you what is called a Rao-Kramer lower bound, usually called the Kramer-Rao lower bound. No, we will call it Rao-Kramer lower bound. Okay, for the variance, we'll spend some time on it. That part is exclusively from Hagen-Craig, the mathematical statistics book. Very well explained. Okay, we'll come to that when we do maximum likelihood estimation in the econometrics part. Okay, for now, that's why we know for some estimation method, here the estimation method I'm considering is the maximum likelihood estimation method, that a possible estimator for theta in an uniform distribution is this. Yn is the estimator for theta. Normally we had it as theta hat. Okay, now it is Yn. Yn is nothing but max x1 xn. Okay, what is this max x1 xn? Those of you who have done statistics?
Probability of every xi less than equal to xi.
No, this is another name, Darshan.
So order statistics.
Exactly. Who is this?
Swarupjit.
Huh?
Swarupjit.
Saurabjit. Have you done order statistics, Saurav?
Yes, sir. Sir, Swarupjit, not Saurabh. Swarupjit.
Okay, Saurabjit. Okay. Order statistics. What is order statistics? I have a sample x1 to xn. I order it in increasing way, in increasing direction. So normally what we do, our statistics is x1 to xn, and when we order it, x within bracket 1, within bracket 2, within bracket n, so that in increasing manner, so that x within 1 within bracket is the minimum of the sample, and x n within bracket will be the max of the sample. Okay, so it will be max of x1 to xn. Okay, so for next bullet point, for x between 0 and theta, the distribution function x, this is what I was telling you. You may wonder what is this within bracket, x n within bracket. This is nothing but the order statistic. Okay, I do have some notes on order statistics, maximum and minimum of the sample and how to go about it. Then I dropped it. So this is getting too much. So okay, this order statistics. Where are you going to use order statistics? There are books written on order statistics, and especially by Cox and all those stuff. In financial econometrics, we use order statistics while calculating value at risk. Okay, value at risk, how to use order statistics, we use it. Okay, so this is the immediate use of order statistics that comes to my mind. But there are other uses of order statistics. This is a separate field of interest in statistics. Okay, now this is nothing but, so while max xn, this will be the estimate x within bracket n is the order statistic, will be maximum of xi I between 1 and n. So what will be the distribution? So if xn, x is equal to probability of max I1 is less than 1, xi less than or equal to x. This can be written this way, and this can be written this way because of the independence.
Sir, can you explain the first bullet point?
First bullet point, suppose we know from some estimation method that the possible estimate of this is what I was explaining all the time. Now we do not know theta, right? I have to estimate it. Do you understand?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That I know.
You have to I am estimating it through what is called a maximum likelihood estimation.
Okay, so maximum of any of the x1 will be our estimate.
What is a possible estimate or estimator for theta from the maximum likely estimation? It so happens, suppose if you have it, theta hat to be a possible estimate of theta. Theta hat is simply maximum in your sample. That's it.
Okay, okay, sir.
That's what it tells you. Now instead of theta hat, I used yn. That's it. So this will be the distribution function.
So this is the distribution function for yn or xn.
Yn?
Like
Xn.
in
What do you y? This is xn.
Oh, okay.
Sir, but you have taken probability of max xi less than equal to xo, and we know that max is xn because we have taken the order statistics, right?
How do what is n here?
N is I think that x1 x. Oh, okay, okay, I understand this. N is the order, nth order statistics.
Yeah,
Okay,
it could be any. It could be any value, isn't
yes.
it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That is why I'm considering everything.
Yes, sir. Okay. Sir.
I have not put a number n there. Can we go to the next slide? For each of these random variables, has the same distribution function, x by theta. So the distribution function, this is nothing but, because everyone has x by theta. So fx and x is nothing but 0 for x less than or equal to 0, x by theta whole power n for x between 0 and theta, and 1 for theta less than x. The usual stuff. Take it down, please. Take it down. They still come to the inference problem. Okay. Take the derivative to find the density. This is quite straightforward. Take the derivative to find the density. This will be the density, and one can find the mean to be this. This is quite straightforward. So what is the mean of this? The estimator n by n plus 1 into theta.
So, but this is essentially the distribution function for the last slide. That is essentially the distribution function for yn only, right? Because yn is the maximum of all the xi's from
Yeah.
1 to n.
Yes,
right?
yes. Instead of writing this, I am writing this only because see why this power n?
In the distribution function.
Yeah.
Because of independent and identically distributed.
No, that is true. Why power n? Why n? Do we know this n?
No, sir.
That is why I'm writing this, isn't it? Somebody asked this question. We don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so from here we come this. Yeah, you are right. X power n could be ultimately yn, but I'm continuing to be xn only. Xn will be the nth order statistics, which will be the max, right?
Yes, sir.
And now take the derivative to find the density, and one can find the mean e theta xn to be this n and n plus 1 by theta. Now comes our problem. Why? I need this particular result, the distribution function. You take it down and be ready to answer this question. This is not done generally in classes. Now always you do normal distribution out with it. Now I'm going to do, this is a uniform distribution. Next we are going to do an exponential distribution. and I'm going to give you a homework involving exactly this. Okay. Suppose I want to test the following hypothesis. The null, the theta is between 3 and 4. The alternative is either theta could be less than 3 or theta is greater than 4. Take it down.
Sir, can you once go to the previous slide? Okay, sir.
Suppose instead test the following hypothesis. Okay. Although yn must be less than theta, there is a high possibility that yn will be close to theta if the sample size n is fairly large. Why is the bullet point first bullet point?
Sir, because n by n plus 1 tends to 1 at large n.
Can it be more intuitive? I mean,
sir, actually the thing is, if n is large, the yn will tend to theta. Expectation of the statistic will tend to theta. Means we have defined yn as maximum of all the samples, and theta is the maximum of the uniform distribution.
Theta is the maximum. Okay. No, my intuitive.
Yeah. I mean, theta is the upper limit of uniform. That's what I'm saying.
My intuitive explanation is this. Suppose I'm going to test something is equal to 3 and yn happens to be equal to 3. And my estimator also happens to be 3. Is there a necessity to test further?
So can you please repeat?
I want to test whether mu equal to 20, h naught. Okay. My estimated mean is also 20. Happens to be 20.
Yes, sir. What is the question?
Would you like to do the testing for this, whether my null can be accepted or not?
Yes, because estimator itself is a random variable. It is 20 now, it could be something else next time.
No, now this is only expectation only. No, what I'm trying to say is this. Suppose I have hypothesis to be equal to 20. My calculated value could be 19.5 or 20.5. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Or it could be even 10 and 30. Okay. Now this is the reason why we do the testing. Okay. Now for illustrative purposes, yn must be less than theta. There's a high possibility that yn will be close to theta. The sample size n is fairly large. So suppose that for illustrative purposes, the test theta here is basically the on-site test. For illustrative purposes, the test delta does not reject null if yn is between 2.9 and 4. And
so
delta
yn is maximum of many estimators, so we need many estimators here for testing, isn't it, sir? I'm confused. If you could explain it.
No, you are going into the unbiasedness property, perhaps.
Yes, sir. I'm not understanding the question, sir.
Which question?
Sir, you are saying if the estimator is equal, if mu is 20, if the estimator is equal to equal to 20.
That is true. That is true. That is true. That your question will be answered only when we take the expectation of the beta, all the betas, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes.
In that case, we have done a lot of experiments. Then x beta equal to beta, that goes into the biasedness, unbiasedness discussion.
Yes,
I'm not coming into that now. I'm just going to only single estimator, single experiment only. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So suppose for illustrative purposes, the test does not reject this. Now you tell me the third bullet point. The critical region of the test delta contains all the values of x1 for which either yn is less than or equal to 2.9. Why it is the why this equality sign? This is the formal nature. For always you take the boundary also. Yn is equal to less than or equal to 2.9 or yn is greater than or equal to 4. Okay. It is
Sir, where did we get this 2.9? Sir,
I'm 2.9 is my illustrative purposes only.
Okay.
I'm just saying it is 2.9. What is our null? Null is between 3 and 4. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
I want to check whether 2.9 can be accepted. Suppose 2.9 will the null be accepted? That is my question. What do you think? Can 2.9 be accepted?
Yeah. If
It's
theta is
rejected at 2.9.
What does your common sense thing tell you? It may be accepted.
So in the last point, we have included 2.9 in the rejection region.
Where?
In the last bullet point.
The last bullet point? No, wait a minute. I'm in the third bullet point. The critical region of the test delta contains all the values of x1 for which either yn is less than or equal to 2.9. This is the tradition, or yn are greater than or equal to 4. Am I right?
Yes.
Given that, the rejection region is okay?
Yes.
Oh, this should be minus, no?
Yeah, yes, minus.
That's a typo. The rejection isn't clear. Sorry, that's a typo. Should be minus.
Sir, could you explain the first bullet point? Yn must be less than theta. There's a high possibility that one.
I'm proposing this to be theta, for example, 3, the lower bound. Can you say it's a lower bound?
Yes.
Can it be? My question is an intuitive question. Must be theta for whatever theta. Whatever theta takes, whatever value theta takes, yn also will be exactly equal to theta. The unknown parameter, my question is this. Will the calculated estimator or the estimated one will be exactly equal to the unknown parameter value theta?
No, sir.
It will be either low or high.
Yes, sir.
The second bullet point now, for illustrative purposes, suppose I'm taking theta to be 2.9. Illustrative purposes, it is between 2.9 and 4.
Sir, we can take any, we could have taken 2.99 also if we wanted.
Correct. I am taking it to be 2.9 and less than yn less than 4. So what am I hypothesizing now? What
So
am I
we have
hypothesizing?
explicitly defined the rejection region, and we are seeing that if yn lies in the rejection region or the complement of rejection region.
I am hypothesizing that my null hypothesis is theta is between 3 and 4. Okay. Now I'm hypothesizing 3 is less than or equal to theta. So I'm hypothesizing 2.9 less than yn less than 4. The critical region is normally taken including the boundary. So now yn is less than or equal to 2.9 or yn is equal to greater than or equal to 4. In terms of the test statistic, why the rejection region is the following. Is the fourth bullet point clear? It should be minus infinity. Sorry, that's a typo there.
So, sir, the range of yn and the theta is differing because we are saying that for any yn sufficiently close to theta, we'll end up rejecting the null. So, even if that value is between 2.9 to 3, we'll still reject the null hypothesis.
Possible. Can you go to the next slide?
Sir, I still couldn't get that. Why will yn be less than theta, sir? I'm so sorry, but I couldn't understand that. That why are we just taking yn to be just close to 3, like the 2.9 to 4 part? As n tends to as n is fairly large, why is yn always less than theta?
So you are saying could be even slightly greater than theta also?
Yes, sir. Sir,
how is
because
this
it is
tell you?
max, that is why we'll always take it as less than theta. Because
Possible.
theta is the
Yes, this is the estimator. Where is it? This is the estimator.
yes, sir.
Sir, I think there is a very intuitive explanation to that because we have calculated the expectation of yn as n by n plus 1 into theta. So n by n plus 1 will always be less than 1 for any n less than infinity. So expectation of xn will be less than this, yn will always be less than expectation of xn.
N tends to infinity. Where will this limit go? N tends to infinity.
To theta. It will go to theta.
What are you assuming? Infinity by infinity to be equal to 1?
No, sir. Divide both numerator and denominator by n. So this term n by n plus 1 goes to 1.
What will happen now? Okay, now that will go to theta.
Yes, sir.
I'm still not convinced why it should be.
But I couldn't understand why expectation and if Shantanu can explain this, that expectation, how is it related? I couldn't get it.
I mean, on average, the yn will be less than expectation of xn because n by n plus 1 is always less than 1. So,
Kumar, all your discussion is going towards bias.
Yes, sir, but this is the, I think, explanation for that first point in the slide.
So why should it be always, there should be over bias also? You are saying Bn minus B hat. What is this? B hat minus beta or theta hat minus theta should always be positive, negative.
I mean, the expectation of xn minus yn should always be negative because expectation of xn is always less than the yn, means which is the estimator. Expectation of estimator is less than the estimator always for any large n.
My intuitive explanation is the following. This is an estimator. As you say, it will be equal to the unknown population parameter theta as n tends to infinity. That both of us are saying the same thing basically.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that being ruled out. Okay, sorry.
Sir, another explanation is that the domain is actually 0 to theta, right? You cannot get the population itself lies within 0 to theta. Is that the case?
Population itself, all of us. Okay, in a particular experiment, is it possible that the estimate will be greater than theta?
Sir, I got it, sir. I think because x1, x2, xn lies between 0 and theta, there is no way that max of x1, x2, xn will be greater than theta. There is no way it is possible. So I think that is why it has to be either less than or equal to theta only.
In a particular experiment, it is possible that you will get a value something greater than theta.
Sir, in this case of uniform distribution, if we have defined the uniform distribution's domain to be 0 to theta, then you would get all the samples from that.
Yes. Okay. Can you now move on?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. For illustrative purposes, this is it. Do you understand the critical region, rejection region now for union of two intervals? Can we say this now?
Yes, sir.
Can you go to the next slide? It's very important. Can you say this now? Power function of delta, the test procedure, is specified by this relation. Do you understand this now? Did you take down the power function explanation?
Sir, can you explain the last point?
The first four are okay?
So the third one, can you explain this?
What is the third one? 2.9. Theta is between 2.9 and less than or equal to 4. Okay.
Sir, is it from the distribution function we just calculated x by theta whole to the power n?
Here. What did I say now here?
Yeah, I think it's that only, like from the CDF.
Yeah, this is from the PDF. You see, remember this from here, we came here for every xi, this is the one. Then for xn is nothing but the product of all these n's, isn't it?
Sir, but the estimator for theta is just that max of xi's, right?
Max of yeah.
Yeah.
See, this is a problem. The problem is you don't know which one will be the one, isn't it?
Yeah, that I understood.
Everyone has an equal probability. Am I right?
Hmm.
And hence x by theta whole power n. Is it okay?
Yes, I understood that.
And this is the derivative, and this is the region. I don't know whether I gave this. What would be the supremum also we have taken, no? This you have taken level and size?
Sir, can you go back to the last slide you were showing? I did not.
Have you seen this?
No, sir, no.
See this? Level and size, in addition, the size alpha delta of a test is defined as follows. the supremum of theta in the rejection region, in the acceptance region, probability the theta given for the theta test procedure. Supremum is nothing but the least upper bound, right?
Sir, can you please go to the last slide which you were
Yeah,
showing?
true. But is this okay? Is this okay?
Yeah.
This is the one.
Sir, I couldn't understand that alpha delta part.
Alpha delta is nothing but the power function. This is nothing but the power function. This is the power function, the right hand side.
Yes, sir.
What value should you take ideally?
We get that from pi theta given delta less than equal to alpha naught. Okay, yes, sir. Yes,
Whose power function is as high as possible. Am I right?
Yes, sir. I got it. Yes, sir.
Now this is supremum. Now we'll see for this example what happens now.
Sir, is that also the p-value?
Which one?
Is that what we call the p-value?
I'm coming there. The Drishan, I'm coming there. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Now this is it, and we have to, by definition of the size of the test, we have to calculate this alpha delta supremum 3 between 3 and 4 because the null is under the null. Okay. And this is a test procedure. What happens? It can be seen from the above calculations that, for example, alpha theta equal to pi 3 by delta is equal to 29 by 30 power n. Why these three? Why this 3? I should have a picture for this. I forgot to add the picture. You need the supremum, isn't it? Supremum is the least upper bound. And in this case, what will happen? Pi 2.9 by theta power n. Okay, if you draw the picture, the least upper bound happens to be 3. Least upper bound you get when theta happens to be 3.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, and please, in simple English, could you explain what size of the test means? Like not from the formula, the
Size of the test is nothing but our alpha that you fix in topical. Who is this? This is Paramila or Kanika?
Sir, Amin.
Amin, have you heard of this 5%, 1%?
Yes, sir.
That is nothing but the size of the test.
Sir, the supremum part I didn't get.
No, don't worry. You get the size of the test is nothing but your 5%, 1%.
Yes.
Okay, what are we trying to do? We are going to, instead of fixing that 5%, 10%, 5%, 1%, 10%, for any particular test procedure, what should be the level of significance? Get my point?
So could you repeat the last sentence?
Instead of fixing it to be 1% and 5% for any test, okay? With this exercise, what we are trying to do is, instead of fixing it, we are going to decide what should be the level of significance.
Oh, okay.
Instead of fixing it to be 1%, we are going to statistically decide what should be the level of significance for a given test procedure.
Given the power function, we decide what should be the level of significance.
Now that you want it
just fixing it.
Now that you want it in simple English, this is what is being done here. Okay.
Okay.
Now, what is it according to this calculation? What is it your level of significance that you understand as alpha? It is neither 0.5, it is neither this is nearly 10%. Can we say this?
Sir, from where are we getting this 3? Can you please explain once?
1 minute. This Gandhi. Do you understand now why I'm getting it? Now it's alpha 0. Your alpha, so-called alpha, is not 1 or 5. It is 10 nearly. Can you say this? 10%.
Yes, so instead of taking 5% randomly, like 1%, 5% randomly, statistically we're seeing what should we take the value of I.
What should be your so-called significance level that you know otherwise is 1%, 5%. Okay, for each and every test procedure, you can calculate this.
Okay.
Okay, that is what I am demonstrating. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now what is the question about 3? Somebody asked me about the question about 3.
Yes, sir.
Now look at this. What is supremum? What does that mean? What does it mean? Forget supremum, all those stuff. What is supremum? Supremum is also called maximum. Can you write? Can you understand that? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Who is this? What's your name?
Sir, Mona Lisa.
Huh?
Mona Lisa.
Mona Lisa. Supremum is nothing but the least upper bound. Have you heard of this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the least upper bound in this least upper bound, not in the interval, least upper bound or this probability that I have calculated. Pi theta by delta.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir.
In other words, what will be the maximum? That's it. We have to take the maximum of the power function. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
When will the maximum? When will you get the maximum for theta equal to 3? Okay, to understand that 29 by 30, I'm having here 2.9 by theta is the 1. Okay, when will you get this? You'll get this because our hypothesis is 3. We're starting from 3. Okay, now 3 by delta. What will be 29 by theta? 30, it will be 0.997. Suppose you want to know whether this is the correct one. You increase the theta by something like 3.01 or something. What will happen? It will be slightly less than 0.0997. You increase it to 0.302, it will be even less. So what will be the curve look like starting from 3?
I didn't get the question. Can you please repeat? Which curve?
Mar.
Yes, sir.
It will be decreasing after 3.
Suppose 2.9 by theta n. What is this supremum? Because we are going to get, I need simply the maximum of this value here. Supremum maro goli. I want this maximum of this pi theta. Okay, the maximum will
Sir,
I get it. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So now, if you
increase it is the maximum probability of rejecting null hypothesis.
Why do we need the maximum? Why do we need the maximum? Because the power function should be as high as possible. Get my point?
Yes, sir.
As close to 1 as possible.
So 2.9 by theta, I'm taking it theta. 2.9 by theta becomes 29 by theta. You consider the second one. Suppose I increase it to 29 by, instead of theta equal to 3.01, I calculated it. It is slightly less than 0.0097. It becomes 0.00996. Okay, so you keep on increasing, going up to 4, and plot this curve. As somebody said, what will be the curve? The curve will be a decreasing one. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Yes. Sir.
Rather, can we say it is a non-increasing one? So where is the supremum attained? The supremum is attained when theta equal to 3. So in particular, if n equal to 68, then the size of delta will be 0.0997. Okay, everything forget it. I answered this. I wanted to answer that question. In the end, somebody Gandhi just preempted me. What is this? Delta is a level alpha 0 test for every level of significance, blah, blah, 0.0997. What does this whole exercise tell you? As I told you all those stuff, what is it? What is it finding? This exercise is finding the critical level that you need for your test procedure. First point, why do you need it? Do you need it? You don't have to calculate this, because by experience, The applied statisticians and econometricians have fixed this alpha to be either 1% or 5%. Okay, so if you are not satisfied with this, many times I need the critical level for my test procedure. This is the way to go about it. Okay, assuming that this is a uniform distribution. If this is an exponential distribution, it will be different for different hypotheses. If it is a normal distribution, it will be different, and we are going to calculate it. Is it understood? For this particular problem and for this null, the test procedure, for this test procedure, and what is the critical level that you need, the significance level, let it put a significance level. The significance level that you need is 0.0997, or in other words, 10%. Is much higher than the normal significance level that we take to be 1% and 5%. Okay, can I say this another intuitive?
Sir, so
Yes.
this is the so this is the p-value only which we have calculated 0.9.
Correct. Now that you are asking me this question, let me say it. Yes, I just want to break this p-value slowly. I'm coming here. Okay, I just want to break this p-value slowly. Okay, p-value is the smallest. Okay, now that you asked the question, what is p-value? P-value is the smallest significance level at which you can reject the null. Can you say this?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Now that is being okay. Now that is correct. That is being given by all computer packages. All computer packages give the p-value for assuming normal distribution. This is a uniform distribution. You need special packages for that. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can I use this particular simple English when you take this 1% and 5%? Okay. What does it tell you? You fix it to be 1%. You fix it to be 5%. What does statistics tell you? Suppose I conduct 100 experiments. Suppose you fix 5% level to be the significance level. What does that experiment tell you? What have you essentially done? You have conducted 100 experiments. I am fixing the significance level to be 5% or 0.05. What are you essentially doing?
Sir, we are not allowing alpha to be greater than 0.05.
No, Drishan, I'm asking you in simple English. 100
So
experiments I have done. 100 experiments I have done. I expect by fixing it to be 5%. I expect 5 experiments to go wrong. Can I say this?
Yes.
If it is 1%, I am allowing only 1 experiment to go wrong.
Yes.
Yes. In this test, now this tells you that for this hypothesis testing for this particular problem, you can go wrong up to 10% approximately. Can I say this?
Yes.
That is what testing significance level, everything boils down to. Okay, Gandhi, do you understand this particular part now? This non-technical way of saying this?
Yes, sir. And so one more question, that
Yeah.
usually the statisticians, they fix, right? They don't calculate.
No, they don't calculate. That is 1%, 5%. They have made life easy for us econometricians, but that is incorrect because most of the time that works because of the normal distribution assumption. Do you get me?
Okay, sir, but in this case, if they would have taken, then it would have been erroneous.
Wrong. No, you are saved because it is 10% now. Nearly 10% now.
Yeah, so if they would have taken 1% or 5%, then.
No, what happened? No problem. According to this experiment, you can go 10 times. You can wrong 10% of the time. That means today out of 100 experiments, 10 experiments will go wrong. They said no, only 5 experiments can go wrong. So who is more conservative here?
The 5% one.
That they are more conservative. They are more stricter. Here it is a bit relaxed for this particular. If you go by this, okay.
Sir, just one clarification here. It is alpha. It is 0.09 is the p-value. So if p-value is greater than alpha, so our null will be rejected here at 5%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So I mean, this is 5% is a stricter value here. If this is not alpha,
I
it is
understand.
p-value.
That is why I asked the question: who is more conservative, this fellow or the other fellow?
Okay, sir. Now I understand. Thank you.
Okay, the 5% fellow is more conservative, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Take down this test and try this. Do you want have you taken down this question? Then I'll give you the thing about exponential distribution. Don't worry, I have the element, the PDF and other thing, CDF for the exponential distribution. I'll give you that. And after that, it's just 2 sentences. One line for the first one, another for the second one. Have you taken it down? Ramini, you are quiet today. No mistakes on the PPT?
No, sir, that's okay. I understand it.
Have you taken this down?
Yes, sir.
Should I show you something about the elementary result about exponential distribution? This is it. Recall that the random variable x has an exponential distribution of parameter beta if x has a continuous distribution of PD of this. For x greater than 0, where the parameter beta is greater than 0. Take down the last one especially. Now, what will be the power function of this test?
Sir, e to the power minus beta.
Exactly. What is the second one? What is second one? Power of the test. That's also one line. Because you have to show now that it is also a decreasing function.
So that will also be e to the power minus beta.
Size of the test will be exponential minus 1.
Yeah, okay, in terms of beta, right?
Okay, in terms of
Right.
beta, because
Yeah.
you have to explain in terms of parameters.
Yeah, okay.
Let delta be the test that rejects h0 when x is greater than or equal to 1. The power function is simply this. X is greater than 1, conditional on beta. That's why I gave you the probability limit. So 1 minus this thing, minus of, so exponential minus beta for beta greater than 0. The size of the test is supremum beta greater than 1 by beta delta. Using the answer, the question 1 above, we see that's a decreasing function of beta, so that the size of the test will be exponential minus 1 because it's a supremum. It's okay. Rest of the class, is it okay?
So the second question was calculate the power of the test.
Yeah, power of the test. Very simply the supremum.
So, power of the test is 1 minus beta, no, because the size of the test is alpha, which is the
It's a
supreme
power
power.
function. This is actually a power function.
Oh, all right.
Do you want to try a homework? The class?
Sir, can you explain, sir? We are just choosing that level of x, like we are just choosing that x when x is greater than equal to 1, we are rejecting the null. There is no other explanation for that. Like we are not estimating
No.
beta here. Okay.
No. I'm not.
Okay.
So just to clarify, power of the test and size of the test are the same.
Power of the test is size of the, no, they're not the same unless you fix it.
So
They're not the
here,
same. They're not the same. They're not the same.
so here the second question was calculate the power of the test, and what we have done is the size of the test.
Okay. Look at this. Look, this is Paramila again.
No, Sami.
This. Look at this explanation. What is this? Okay. Where did we go now? Where did we go now? Size of this test is the maximum value of the power function of the test among all possible levels of parameter. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So this is the maximum value that you can get. The size of the test in the normal parlance, what will be the size of the test in normal parlance? Normally, what do you take the size of the test?
1% or 5%.
Exactly. Then here we are not doing the size of the test. We are not fixing it. We are calculating the size of the test. Am I right? In that sense, yes, you are correct. In the sense, this is what is called normally as the significance level. That is, if that would explain your question. Is it okay?
Sir, could you explain me the difference between the size of the test and the power of the test? Just that.
I'll come to the power of the test and I'm going to calculate it differently.
Okay.
Who is this? Again, Paramila.
Sami.
Okay, I'll come to that question when I calculate the power of the test differently, slightly differently. Okay, not slightly differently by taking the normal distribution and calculate the power of the test when x is greater than some value x, some threshold x, okay, which is nothing but 1 minus something. Everybody knows this to be the power of the test. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes, I'm coming there. This again, as I told this person, this is only to, instead of fixing it to be 1% or 5%, I'm going to fix the size. I'm going to fix the size according to the test procedure that I have. I'm not going to go by the 1%, 5%. That's it. This example tells you that this is 1%, 5% could be more conservative. You can relax a bit and you can keep it at 10% also. So this is going to differ from problem to problem, procedure to procedure. For this particular problem and particular this procedure, this will be the size of the test. Okay, that will be, this will be the alpha level if you are comfortable with that. The significance level if you are comfortable with that. Okay, now take this problem. Attempt it and tell me tomorrow. Somebody asked this question. What is the power of the test now? 3 power 4, 3 by 4 power n. Your n is reasonably large. That will be the significance level. Oh my God. You know what it will be, the power of the test significance level, if this is what you guys are you know what will be, even for a sample of 50, you know what will be the power of the test? You'll not believe it is 5.66 e power minus 7.
Sir, we are supposed to do this sum now.
Before I send you the PPT, the PPT will contain the answer. Would you like to try?
Sir, I'll try this with first without seeing the answer.
Okay, I'll send you the PPT. I have to send you the PPTs of the last 2 lectures also. So this is
Yes, sir, from central limit theorem.
Yeah, I would say there was some problem about the mailing list. You are only 53. My mailing list has got 63. I did not check it at all because after the first test only I got to know there are 53 people, MSc plus PhD plus the retakers. The mailing list there were 63 people. That's why I asked you the other day about 5-6 people, Ria Gulati and all those people have left. But the name somehow miraculously continues to be in the mailing list. So maybe they are receiving all my PPTs. So the mailing list got done only yesterday. People are not coming, no? Only they can edit the Google group. I cannot edit. So, okay,
So,
I'll
sir,
send
you
the.
will be sending these PPTs before tomorrow's special lecture, right?
Who is this?
Yamini, because we have to revise for all the 3 classes.
I'll send the first 2, the last 2. Would you like to try this question or you wait for the answer?
No, sir, I'll try this on my own, but I was saying that we would prefer if we can get the PPTs before tomorrow's lecture, so we can hear.
Normally I send it the same day. I'm sorry about
Yes,
this.
sir, yes, sir. Yes.
Normally I send it the same day because in this mailing group goof up, I did not send it. Okay, I'll send it today. No, I have to type the answer and I'll type the answer, the solution. I'll type the solution and send it today by evening. Okay.
Okay, so thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Now we have to. I thought. Okay, tomorrow we are meeting at 9:30. Is it okay? The class.
Yes.
Where is Srishti? Supposed to be our representative.
So Srishti would be unavailable for like 2 days, so she wouldn't.
She's not well or something, or.
I don't know, sir. She just texted me, so I'm conveying it to you.
Okay. Now you'll see. Okay. In the absence of Srishti, Yamini will take care.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Anand Dubey. We have never talked. Who is Anand Dubey? He's still there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Have we talked?
Yeah, we last time talked.
Last time talked. Okay. How do you find it?
It's fine, sir. You're going really slow and pretty clear in your explanations.
I'm going fast or slow? Can I?
No, sir. You're going at a like
decent speed. Decent speed.
Decent speed. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Debojit Roy.
Yes, sir.
Have we talked before? No. Have we?
No.
Okay. Now I can ask you now. Wish you a happy new year. How are we doing? How are we doing? Or how am I doing? How am I doing?
Fine, sir.
Okay. How did the midterm go for you?
It was quite okay, but for one question, I think I have made some mistake.
No, that is okay. That happens. If you don't commit mistake, everybody gets A grade. Where will I go? Okay, bye. Okay. Yeah. Kanishk Kurana. Have we talked before?
Hello. Yes, sir. We have talked twice before.
Oh, twice. Okay. Manasi. Okay. Happy New Year, Kanishk.
Same to you, sir.
Thank you. Shivam, Shweta Verma. Vishal V. Harry. Have we talked before?